Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are reviewing the first season of the Halo TV show streaming on Paramount Plus. Now the reason I wanted to get into this show and review it despite it coming out 2 years ago is because it took me several attempts to restart the first season and get through it to the very end because I thought it was so bad and so poorly constructed as a method of storytelling. The reviews were awful, I had no real motivation to keep going and continuing it. But then I saw the trailer for season 2, I saw some of the early responses to season 2, I saw a lot of Pablo Schreiber's comments, the actor who plays Master Chief, about rectifying the mistakes of season 1, and I'm now 1 episode into season 2. And already it seems like such a vast improvement that I thought it would be worthwhile going back and documenting my thoughts on that first season. So let's get into it, because Halo is basically this sci-fi universe born out of a video game franchise. It follows these iconic military figures called Spartans, who are basically enhanced genetic humans, and charts the political state of the galaxy and the UNSC, which is this military army, and follows their conflict with the Covenant, who are this alien race of opponents. Now in the games, Halo is very similar to The Mandalorian in the respect that you never see the Master Chief's face. He is this armored warrior who expresses emotion through that outer layer, through his body language, through his actions, through his tone of voice, but never through his facial expression. Halo, the TV show, made the very controversial attempt to humanize the Master Chief character through showing his face, through having him out of the armor a lot more, through having that interaction a lot more with the actor and that screen time. And it did not work in the slightest. Now don't get me wrong, I respect that it's a different take, I respect that they were going for a different approach with it, and I do think that could have worked had the story and the character and the writing had the material to do something interesting with that approach. But unfortunately neither the narrative nor the character journey are serviceable enough to justify keeping Master Chief out of the armor for that long. So I think while one of the biggest duds of season 1 was that choice, it wasn't necessarily damning in and of itself. It was what they chose to do with that once they'd made that controversial decision. And that doesn't just go for Master Chief when I talk about like the writing quality and the storyline quality being poor. It is a very poorly written show in which none of the kind of political contexts of this sci-fi galaxy feel fleshed out. The world building is very poorly done. The character emotional arcs that these characters go on are very rushed, very surface level, and very poorly conveyed. The humour doesn't really land because it doesn't really know what tone it's trying to achieve. And the pacing of this show is so lethargic. I think that's why I really struggled to get in and carry this on. I initially watched the first episode, which I thought was pretty solid. And by episode 3, I was so disengaged. Then on my second attempt, I pushed to episode 5 because episode 5 had this shortened runtime and was a very action-packed episode with big production values. That was pretty solid. Gave up on episode 6. And then third time's the charm, I pushed through to the end of episode 9. And I'd say in its first season, Halo has 3 average to solid episodes. And they are the pilot episode, episode 5, its midpoint episode, and the finale. The one consistently good thing in the Halo TV show, and probably the only consistently good thing, is the production values that this show manages to boast. The CGI, whether that is the worlds, whether that is the aliens, whether that is the Master Chief suit and the Spartans in action, or just the action itself, it's very high budget. It looks fantastic on a good screen. You know, the choreography, the utilization of different weapons and different creative scenarios to convey that action, especially with the different kind of alien enemies that they come across, is really well done. It is unfortunately too few and far between. There is a reason why episodes 1, 5, and 9 are some of the better episodes of the season, and that is because those 3 episodes contain the best action sequences in the show. And I'd say it's the only time in the show when my interest peaked, when I actually felt myself really engaged with what I was watching. Unfortunately, there's so much screen time that gets devoted to subplots and different characters who you don't really care about. There's a character called Quan who is supposed to be, you know, the last survivor of this first outpost that gets invaded by the Covenant, and she's supposed to have this arc taking her towards this rebellion and rising up and representing her people. The character is a complete write-off. Whenever the show cuts to her character, because she is pretty much separated from the Master Chief storyline, it is a separate subplot. you just feel your eyes drift, you feel your attention lapse. It is just nothing that you're here for. And they don't do a good enough job of giving you a reason to care for this character, to making her interesting and compelling in any serious way. The knock-on effect of that is that the show does not feel like we're distinctly following the Master Chief character. And that is really detrimental to this narrative overall, particularly season 1, when you haven't really earned the right to digress the narrative to anyone else, because in the Halo universe, you have more or less 2 characters who you are really invested in, and that is John 117 and Dr. Halsey. The Master Chief character could have had a really interesting arc in the first season with becoming a bit more autonomous, realizing how he came to be manipulated and groomed into being this emotionless weapon, integrating with Cortana, his bond with the Spartan team, his conflict with the higher authorities. There's a lot there that could have been mined for good material, but the writing is unfortunately not to a level that does it any justice. Visually as well, I think from what I've seen of season 2 so far, it just looks much grittier. It looks much more like it complements the tone of what a Halo show should be, whereas in season 1 it was much more colourful, it was much more vibrant. It felt a bit cartoonish at times with its overly saturated colourful worlds. So the look has definitely improved in season 2. Season 1 is genuinely, I'd say, a dumpster fire of TV. I know often TV shows take more than one season to find their footing, but rarely does a season of TV come out of the gate that bad. And Halo season 1 is that bad. And a lot of the people involved in the show, the lead actor included, has gone on record saying that he wasn't happy with a lot of the things that were done in season 1, and they've made a conscious effort to build on that in season 2. And I think that's insanely respectable. And it is what all shows should strive to do, is acknowledge the flaws and the faults of your first season and try and build on that going forward. I think the best example I ever saw of that was Nightfall, this Templar TV show. It only aired 2 seasons, unfortunately. It was cancelled after season 2. Season 1 was atrocious. I remember watching that show having like no interest in carrying on with season 2. Then again, the trailer for season 2 came out. It looks much grittier. The tone looked like it had settled into what it should have been from the get-go. Mark Hamill had been announced as an added cast member, and it really just piqued my interest. So I watched season 2 and could not believe how transformed it had been, and had really dug deep to expose those mistakes and rectify them. It still wasn't a perfect season, but was so dramatically different and was definitely something I considered good by the end of it. And I'm hoping that's the journey we're on with Halo, which is why I wanted to make this video today for season 1. Because season 1 is genuinely awful. I will never rewatch that 9 episodes ever again. Because neither the journey, nor the payoff, nor the characters you're following to get from there to there are worth investing any time in. Season 2, from what I've seen so far, is looking to be reshaping that. So if you are a Halo fan and you are following the show, do drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Please also consider liking and subscribing to the channel, guys. That's always a huge help for me. And in the meantime, we'll see you for the next vid.